Hey friends, my name is Z and you're watching Yi MakesItEasy, and welcome to a new video for IGCSE Business Studies. And today we have a new section, which is section 4 for Operations Management. And for the first lesson for section 4, we have 4.1, the production of goods and services. And by the end of the lesson, you should be able to describe 4.1.1, the meaning of production, 4.1.2, the main methods of production, and 4.1.3, how technology has changed production methods, for example, using computers in design and manufacturing. So check out the pinned comment for all the timestamps. But we'll move on now to 4.1.1, the meaning of production. And here's managing resources effectively to produce goods and services. And I'll just skim through this. Production is the provision of a product or service to satisfy customer wants and needs. The process of production adds value to the raw material and bought-in components. And as we learned before, the value added is the difference between the cost of input and the final selling price of the product or the service. The production process applies to manufacturing as well as service industries. And in adding value, the businesses combine the inputs of a business. For example, the factors production like land, labor, and capital and enterprise, to produce a more valuable output to satisfy consumers or customers' wants and needs. And here's just a diagram to demonstrate what I said. The inputs, the production process, and the outputs. And for a business to be competitive, it should combine these inputs of resources efficiently so that it makes the best use of resources at its disposal to keep costs low and increase profits. And in a developing country where wages are low, it may be more efficient to use many workers and few machineries to produce goods, like labor intensive, which is called, because there's lots of labor. However, in developed countries where labor costs are high, businesses often use machines or robots to employ few workers to produce goods, and it's called capital intensive because it uses a lot of capital. Then we have the difference between production and productivity. And here's operations department. The role of the operations department in the business is to take inputs and change them into outputs for customer or consumer use. The inputs can be physical goods or services, and the operations manager is responsible for making sure that the raw materials are provided and made into finished goods or service. The different sections of this department will vary depending on what the business produces. And a typical manufacturing business will have three things right here. A factory manager who will be responsible for the quantity and quality of the products coming off a production line. This will include the maintenance of the production line and other necessary repairs. A purchasing manager who will be responsible for providing the materials, components, and equipment required for the production. And a research and development manager or an R&D manager who will be responsible for the design and testing of new production processes and the products. And in the retailing business, this department will be similar, but the factory manager will be replaced with the managers for the shops. In the service business such as restaurants, the operations department will include managers for each of the restaurants. Then we have production and productivity. And production is the provision of product or a service to satisfy customer needs and wants. And productivity is the output measured against the input used to create the output. And here's more for productivity. The level of production is the total output of a business in a given time period, like 1 year. And this is different to productivity. And productivity is how a business can measure its efficiency using a formula, right here. Productivity formula is output over input. And businesses often want to measure the productivity of one of the factors of production or inputs, usually labor. And this is measured by dividing the output over a given period of time by the number of employees. So it's called labor productivity, and it's output per period, or the output in a given period of time divided by the number of employees at work. Then we have more on productivity. The productivity can be raised by either using fewer inputs to produce the same output, or using the same input to produce a higher level of output. If employees become more efficient, the amount of output produced per employee will rise, and therefore the cost of producing each product will fall. This will make the business more competitive, and it is the main reason why businesses are usually very focused on increasing productivity. And there are a number of ways to increase productivity and efficiency, and these include the number 1, improve quality of the product and inventory control to reduce waste. Number 2, to replace employees with machines or automation. Number 3, improve trainings to increase employee efficiency. Number 4, motivate employees more effectively. Number 5, introduce new technology. And lastly, use more automation. Then we have the benefits of increasing efficiency and how to increase it. And here are the benefits of increasing efficiency or productivity. Number 1, there will be reduced inputs needed for the same output level. There will be lower cost per unit, like the average cost. Number 3, fewer workers may be needed, possibly leading to lower wage costs. And number 4, higher wages might now be paid to workers, which increases motivation. Then we have why businesses hold inventories. And inventories is basically stock, and I'll skim through this. And to ensure there's always enough stock or inventory to satisfy demand, inventory levels must be carefully controlled. And inventories can take various forms, including raw materials, components, partly finished goods, or finished products ready for delivery. And it can even include inventory of spare parts for machinery in case of breakdowns. And holding inventory allows a business to maintain production and satisfy customer demand quickly. And when inventories get to a certain point, to the reorder point, they will be reordered so that when the delivery is made, it will bring inventory back up to the maximum level again. The business must reorder before inventories get too low to allow time for the goods to be delivered. And if inventory level gets too low, they might actually run out if there's an unexpectedly high demand for the goods, as we're seeing now in around 2021 in April, May, where there's a shortage of chips, like semiconductors chips. And if too high of an inventory level is held, then this costs a lot of money because you need to buy the space to hold the inventory. And then the business has bought the goods, but they are not being used, and the money could be put to better use. For example, you can use it to advertising or marketing. And the following graph over here demonstrates how inventory levels can be managed. Then we can see here, we have the buffer inventory level, which is the inventory held to deal with uncertainty in customer demand and deliveries of supplies. And then here's a graph to show the inventory level. We have the maximum stock level, the reorder point or the level, and the minimum stock level. And as I mentioned, the inventories can be in the form of raw materials, components, or finished goods, or finished products. And here are just the different annotations, like the buffer stock and the reorder quantity. Then we have the concept of lean production and how to achieve it. And lean production covers a variety of techniques used by businesses to cut down on waste of resources, including time, and therefore it increases the efficiency. And it aims to reduce the time it takes for a product to be developed and become available in the shops for sale. And lean production cuts off any activities which do not add value for the customer, and this can apply to services as well. And there are several types of waste that can occur in production. For example, number 1, overpopulation, the producing goods before they have been ordered by customers, and this results in high storage costs and possible damage to goods while in storage. Number 2, waiting. When goods are not moving or being processed in any way, the waste is occurring. Number 3, transportation. Moving goods around unnecessarily causes waste and is not adding value to the product, and goods may also be damaged when they are being moved around. Number 4, unnecessary inventory. If there's too much inventory, then this takes up space and may get in the way of production and cost money, similar to the overpopulation one. And number 5, motion. like any actions like bending and stretching movement of the body of the employee waste time, and it may also be a health and safety risk for the employees. And this also applies to the movement of machines which may not be necessary. And then we have over-processing. If complex machinery is being used to perform like a simple task, then this is wasteful because it's just quite simple and the labor can do it themselves. And defects. Any faults require the goods being fixed and time can be wasted inspecting the products. Then we have the benefits of lean production. And costs are saved through these points right here. Less storage of raw materials and components. Quicker production of goods and services. No need to repair defects or provide a replacement service for a dissatisfied customer. Better use of equipment. Cutting out some processes which speeds up production. Less money tied up in inventories. And improved health and safety, leading to less time off work due to injury. And reduced costs can lead to a lower price for consumers or customers, and businesses being more competitive and possibly also increase profits. And lean production can be achieved using the following methods: Kaizen, just-in-time inventory control or JIC, or cell production, which we'll look into it now. Starting with Kaizen, and I'll skim through this. And Kaizen is actually a Japanese word which means continuous improvement, and its focus on is on like the elimination of waste. And this has proved to be effective because no one knows the problems that exist better than the workers who work with them all the time, so they are often the best ones to think of ways to overcome them. And Kaizen eliminates waste, like for example by getting rid of large amounts of inventory or reducing the amount of time taken for workers who walk between jobs. When Kaizen is introduced, the factory floor is reorganized and repositioned machines tightly together in cells in order to improve the flow of production through the factory, and the floor will be open and marked with color-coded lines which map out the flow of materials throughout the production process. And here's a diagram to show like the Kaizen effect before and after, like how messy it is and how neatly it is. An advantage of Kaizen might be to increase productivity, to reduce the amount of space needed for the production process, and work in progress is reduced, and as well as improved layout of the factory floor may allow some jobs to be combined, thereby freeing up the employees to carry out some other jobs in the factory. Then we have just-in-time inventory control or JIT. And JIT is a production method which focuses on reducing or virtually eliminating the needs to hold inventories of raw materials or components and on reducing work in progress and inventories of the finished product. The raw materials or components are delivered just in time to be used in the production process, and the making of any part is undertaken just in time to be used in the next stage of production, and the finished products or goods is made just in time to be delivered to the customer. So essentially what just-in-time inventory control is that the production process or like the factory only continue or like make the product when there's an order, hence the name just-in-time. And all this reduces the cost of holding inventory as no raw materials and like components are needed in order to keep it in like the warehouse. And the warehouse space is not needed, again reducing costs. And the finished product is sold quickly, and so money will come back to the business more quickly, helping its cash flow. And to operate just in time, inventories of raw materials, work in progress, and the finished products are run down, and no like extra inventory is kept. The business therefore needs very reliable suppliers and a very effective system of ordering raw materials or components in order to receive them in the quickest time possible. Then we have cell production. And cell production is where the production line is divided into separate self-contained units or cells, each making an identifiable part of the finished product, instead of having a flow or a mass production line. And this method of production improves the morale of the employees and makes them work harder, so they become more efficient. And the employees feel more value and are less likely to strike or cause disruption. Like you can see here, splitting flow production into self-contained groups that are responsible for the whole work unit. Then we have 4.1.2, the main methods of production. And here's the features, benefits, and limitations of these production. Here are 3 main methods of production during the growth of a company. We have job production, batch production, and flow production. And we'll look at the differences between them now, starting with job production. And this is where the products are made specifically to the order. For example, a customer would order a particular dish and a cook or a chef will make it. And each order is different and may or may not be repeated. And other examples include specialist machinery manufacturers that will produce a machine for another business to meet a particular specification, bridges, ships, and made-to-measure suits, cinema films, or individual components programs that perform specialized tasks. And here's the advantage of job production. It is more suitable for personal service or one-off products. The product meets the exact requirements of the customer. The workers often have more varied jobs. More varied work increases employee motivation. And it's flexible and often used for high quality goods and services, meaning that a higher price can be charged. And disadvantage includes skilled labor is often used and this raises costs. The costs are high because it's often labor intensive. Production often takes a long time. And products are specially made to order so any errors can be expensive to correct. And lastly, materials may have to be specially purchased, leading to higher costs. But you can set up higher price as well. And now we have batch production, and this is where similar products are made in blocks or batches, and a certain number of one product is made, then a certain number of another product is made, and so on. And examples include a small bakery making batches of bread, several houses built together using the same design, furniture production, or clothing. Advantages of batch production include it's a flexible way of working and production can easily be changed from one product to another, and it still gives some variety to workers' job. It allows more variety to product which would otherwise be identical, and production may not be affected to any great extent if the machinery breaks down. But disadvantages of batch production include it can be expensive as semi-finished product will need moving about to the next production stage. Machines have to be reset between production batches, which means there is a delay in production and the output is lost. And the warehouse space will be needed for inventories of raw materials, components, and finished batches of goods, and this is costly. And we have flow production, and this is where large quantities of a product are produced in a continuous process. It's sometimes referred to as mass production because of the large quantity of a standardized product that is produced. It's called flow production because the products look as if they are flowing down the production line, like this. And the basic ingredients are put together at one end of the production line, and then the product moves down and more parts are added, and so on, until the product is finished and packaged ready for sale. Large numbers of identical products are made, and the cost of production are low, and the business will gain from economies of scale. And examples of products produced in this way include cars, cameras, televisions, packaged food and drinks, and in fact any mass-produced standardized product which is sold to a mass market will be produced in this way. And we have advantages and disadvantages of flow production. Advantages include there's a high output of a standardized product. The cost of making each item are kept low and therefore prices are also lower. It's easy for capital-intensive production methods to be used. Capital-intensive methods allow workers to specialize in specific repeated tasks, and therefore the business may require only relatively unskilled workers. And it may benefit from economies of scale in purchasing. Lower average costs and therefore low prices usually means high sales. Automated production line can operate 24 hours a day, and there's no need to move goods from one part of the factory to another, as with batch production, so time is saved. But disadvantage includes it's a very boring system for the workers, so there's little job satisfaction, leading to the lack of motivation. There are significant storage requirements, like the cost of inventories of raw materials and components, and finished products can be very high unless just-in-time systems are used. Number 3, the capital cost of setting up the production can be very high. And if one machine breaks down, then the whole production will have to be halted, which wastes time and money. Then we recommend and justify an appropriate production method for a given situation. And the factors which determine which method of production to be used are as follows. Number 1, the nature of the product. If a fairly unique product or an individual service is required, job production will be used. And if the product can be mass produced using an automated production line, then flow production will be used. Number 2, the size of the market. If the demand is higher and more products can be sold but not in a very large quantity, batch production will be used, and the product will be produced in a certain quantity to meet the particular order. Number 3, the nature of demand. If there's a large and steady demand for the product like soap powder, it becomes economical to set up a production line and continuously produce the product, flow production or mass production. If demand is less frequent, like let's say furniture, then job or like batch production may be more likely, or maybe just in time. And the size of the business. If the business is small and doesn't have the access to large amount of capital, then it will not be producing on a large scale like mass production using automated production line. Only large businesses can operate on this like large scale, and small businesses are more likely to use job or batch production methods. Then we have 4.1.3, how technology has changed production methods. And here's how technology has changed. Technological advances have allowed the mechanization and automation of production methods in many industries. For example, the car industry is almost entirely automated, like using robot arms to assemble things. And the use of automation, robotics, CAD or CAM, keeps businesses ahead of the competition, keeps costs falling, reduces prices and improves the production manufactured. And number 1, we have automation, and it's where the equipment is used in the factory is controlled by a computer to carry out mechanical processes, like let's say paint spraying on the car assembly line. Number 2, mechanization is where the production is done by machines but operated by people, like printing process. And robots are quick, very accurate, and work non-stop 24 hours a day. Number 3, we have computer-aided design, or CAD. It's a computer software that draws items being designed more quickly and allows them to be rotated to see the item from all sides instead of having to draw it several times. And it is particularly useful for detailed technical drawings. And number 4, we have CAM, or computer-aided manufacture. Is where computers monitor the production process and control machines or robots on the factory floor, for example on the production line of a car plant, and computers will control the robots that spot weld the car car body together, or the robots that spray paint the car. And CIM, computer integrated manufacturing, is a total integration of CAD and CAM, and the computers that design the products are linked directly to the computers that aid the manufacturing processes. Then here's how technology has changed production methods. We have technology has improved productivity in shops with electronic payment methods and scanners at the tills. We have EPOS, electronic point of sale, and this is used at checkout where operators scan the barcode of each item individually. And here we have electronic funds transfer at the point of sale, and this is where the electronic cash register is connected to the retailer's main computer and also to banks over a wide area of computer network. The shopper's card will be swiped, like a credit card or debit card, and the receipt will be printed as confirmation that the payment has gone out of the customer's account. And number 3, contactless payment is increasingly being used in many countries, like e-wallets. It's fast, easy and secure, and prepaid, debits, charge and credit and key fobs on wearable devices and mobile devices can be used to make contactless payments. And it works by the contactless devices having an antenna, and when it is touched against our contactless terminal, it securely transmits information about the purchase. Then we have advantages and disadvantages of new technology, and I'll skim through this. Advantages include productivity is greater as new, more efficient production methods are being used. There's greater job satisfaction. More skilled workers may be needed to use and maintain the new technology, and workers may become more motivated and therefore improve the quality of their work, as businesses often offer training in the use of new technology. Better quality are produced owing to more accurate production methods. Quicker communication and reduced paperwork owing to computers and lead to increased profitability. The information that is available to managers through the use of IT is much greater and will result in better and quicker decision making. And new high-tech products are introduced as new technology makes completely new products available. Disadvantages include unemployment could rise as machines or computers replace people on the factory floor and in office. It's expensive to invest in new technology products and machinery. And employees may be unhappy with the change in their work practices when new technology is introduced. And new technology is changing all the time and will often become outdated quite quickly and needs to be replaced if the business is to remain competitive. So you have to pick up things very quickly and learn new technology very quickly. Then lastly, here's some definitions for 4.1 of production of goods and services. We have productivity, and the productivity is the output measured against the inputs used to create it. Buffer inventory. The buffer inventory level is inventory held to deal with uncertainty in customer demand and the deliveries of supplies. Lean production is a term for those techniques used by businesses to cut down on waste and therefore increase efficiency. For example, by reducing the time it takes for a product to be developed and become available for sale. Kaizen is a Japanese term meaning continuous improvement through the elimination of waste. And just-in-time, or JIT, is a production method that involves reducing or virtually eliminating the need to hold inventories of raw materials or unsold inventories of the finished product. And job production is where a single product is made at a time. Batch production is where a quantity of one product is made, then a quantity of another product item will be produced, and this keep repeating. And flow production is where large quantities of a product are produced on a continuous process, and it's sometimes referred to as mass production. And that's it for this video for IGCSE Business Studies, where today we look into the first video for section 4 for the course, where we look into 4.1 for production of goods and services. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it useful. And if you did, please leave a like and subscribe and comment down below if you have any questions or criticisms. And don't forget to smash that like button and turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss any video. And also check out my Instagram in the description for more daily content. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, stay safe and happy learning.